Hi everyone, welcome at Rayfact, and another week, another live session around whatever topic I think could be interesting to you. And today I wanna talk with you a little bit about how to effectively work with developers, right? Uh, in terms of working with agencies or software agencies like ourselves, with freelancers, or even just in-house, because there are certain things that can actually cost you tons of money, time, missing deadlines, everything we basically don't want to happen. And when you follow certain guidelines in terms of first how you select developers, like to ensure that you actually not just look at only possibly technical skills, but also other things that might be relevant to your project to actually make you succeed. And of course, then also how the processes, how you actually collaborate with these developers through your, let's say, during the project, right? How is the communication? How responsive are they? How to ensure that deadlines are being met? Basically, using the proper tools and all these kind of things. And I just want to focus on the most important stuff today, because of course there are tons of things uh, everyone here could do wrong, including myself, and I also did and still make a lot of mistakes with software projects because it's just so difficult to evaluate how long something takes. Right, that's the major challenge you have as a software engineer. And I would just start at the very beginning, like what's actually super important when selecting a developer or an agency. Well, as you can imagine, of course, the technical expertise is the core part, right? You are hiring a developer or an agency and you want to tell you how it works or just do it for you if they're not an engineer but just a developer. So that technical expertise, of course, is the first thing you want to ensure they have, right? You can do that with coding assignments. Just an in-depth interview, in my opinion, is oftentimes already sufficient to separate most of the good and the less, let's say, educated or less senior developers out there. That's the first part, but that's obvious, right? Everyone knows that, of course, when I'm hiring for a developer, I want to ensure they know what they're talking about. But something that's oftentimes a little bit neglected, in my opinion, and many people pay when they, for example, hire offshore or nearshore, make that first negative experience when it comes to communication and responsiveness because of the time zone delay and these kind of things. That's another huge aspect when working with developers. Make sure they understand you, and not just understand you roughly, but crystal clear understand what you want. And I'm emphasizing this right now for one simple reason: requirements engineering. There's nothing in software engineering that's more challenging, not the implementation, not the architecture. It's very difficult, of course, but nothing creates more holes in budgets than faulty requirements engineering. If a software developer actually understands what you need and want, they can effectively implement that. And there are many things that, contribute to that, visuals, mockups, wireframes, regular meetings, well-written document, also well-written concept sheets and all these kind of things or requirements. That all helps, right? But in the end, it all comes down to communication. Because there's one thing that people oftentimes forget. A client can tell you, or you can tell a developer what you want, but you are usually not a developer yourself. You're not that technical, and a developer might be able to tell you a solution that's maybe different to what you want, but actually saves you tons of money and maybe is even better than what you want. And that's something I discover or see every day, really. No, uh, you know, no joke. It's really this way. And by actually understanding as a developer what you want, what goal you have, it doesn't matter like how you achieve that goal. There are usually many paths towards success, right? And that's why communication is so important when working with developers. And that's flat out one of the major reasons why most people lose a lot of money when working with agencies, freelancers, or even hiring in-house developers. Because those developers don't understand you. If it's because of the language barrier or because the requirements haven't been, properly communicated or written down and these kind of things, it comes. The consequence is the same, right? They don't know what they need to build, and they can't suggest you easier pathways to that. So that's the first major thing that will save you tons of money. And we already heard it. What are other things? Time zone, these kind of things. Everything that delays communication is, of course, really bad as well. It just makes it more complicated. There's a reason why people prefer agencies, developers, in-house developers that are near them, right? That really is a huge boost for communication. Especially as the company grows, you really want to avoid communication silos, and the more spread out you are over the world, the less overlaps you have where you can make synchronous meetings to align everyone. Of course, I'm a huge advocate for async communication, but many things should be communicated in a synchronous manner. Uh, Basically, everything that involves decision making or like actually requires participants to fully understand, because a synchronous meeting gives you feedback, right? You want to see in their eyes if they understand what you want. And that's the communication part. I don't want to talk 15 minutes about communication. So delaying communication and not understanding requirements sufficiently well, those are huge drivers for budget holes. Another thing, of course, is when you're working with developers, you want to ensure that deadlines are being met or that expectations are aligned. Because oftentimes, when you are not a technical person yourself, a specific change might look minor to you, but might require a developer or an agency to work a full week in worst case, or longer or shorter, whatever, just longer than you anticipated. And that's, of course, a huge issue when it comes to project management, meeting deadlines. Because you, as a non technical person, might think, oh, let us change this thing, because it's just a small thing, right? It won't be an issue. But if you, as a non technical person, would be aware that how many hours could maybe are required fixing this, then you maybe say it's not worth it, or let's do it later, or whatever. And also comes back to communication somewhat. If the technical person, the agency, the freelancer, the developer in-house actually can appropriately communicate that a feature or a bug fix might take a certain amount of time, then you can align your expectations, right? You can add that to your project management belt, basically. You know how long that chain of tickets, might need. So basically, to meet deadlines, you always need to have somewhat that sync what features and bug fixes, how many resources this is going to take up, right? That's a huge one, because there's always a misalignment, right? And that's where I see also, even for us, right? I know a couple of experience we had with clients where I learned myself, oh, okay, I didn't imagine that this is something that I need to clarify to that this might be a larger feature or that this is just a small thing. And you might be surprised what might be clear to you is probably not clear to your counterparty. So also here, project management, that alignment between developers, technical teams, and non-technical teams is really important. And that's where possibly a technical project manager can save you tons of money, right? But basically, just ensuring that he accurately understands how much work certain tickets are, right? Of course, nobody is perfect, and it's oftentimes super difficult to evaluate how long something takes. But if you have a technical project manager, that already helps. And even more so if your developers are good at communicating. So project management, time delay, and also time zone delay and communication in general are huge drivers for how efficient you are with developing digital products, basically. What else? Everything basically that creates misalignment is an issue. As said, expectation setting as before, right? If you think something takes, let's say, 3 months from now, and the developers think so as well, because oftentimes when you didn't start with the project yet, that's a huge one, maybe for non-technical people here. If you set a certain time frame for a project, developers might think, okay, it's realistic for the knowledge I have now, for the requirements that I know about now. And unfortunately, as we have heard before, most of the time, even if you do proper requirements engineering, a lot of things might change on the client side, basically on your side, if you're a business now. And that, of course, might fuck up the whole project schedule. So that's just something to keep in mind, that goes hand in hand with agile project management, of course. You might want to think about that, what you want, right? It has advantages and disadvantages and different, it's a spectrum on how extreme you want to go in terms of agile or more in the planning perspective. It also depends on your industry, if you're more enterprise or more startup. But in general, you just want to make sure that even if you did proper requirements engineering, expectation setting in the beginning, and the communication as well, that you keep that communication on top, right? That you ensure that even if your requirements change, or more importantly, your priorities change, your goals change, because maybe you did more user tests, you did more service, and now the user actually doesn't care about feature A, but feature B that you didn't plan for another quarter is actually the killer feature, the one thing that you need to have. Then of course that again fucks up the whole project schedule. And those are things that you need to keep in mind when working with developers. That a project schedule oftentimes, unfortunately, is just, I wouldn't say wishful thinking, but that if you want to add something here, that you oftentimes need to remove other things. And that's, it's not removed oftentimes, it's just compressed towards the end. And that, again, is one of the common reasons why people lose money with developers. They force tons of features into a short period of time, which then degrades software quality. Well, if you're a developer and you need to deliver fast, what do you do? Of course, you focus less on things that take your time. but are not contributing to things the client sees. Security, clean code, maintainability, these kind of things are usually then less prioritized for the sake of speed of delivery, which is oftentimes fair enough, right? Which is completely fine. But still, you want to make sure that it doesn't reach a point where actual damage occurs, right? If you're developing financial software and it should be enterprise grade at some point, it might make sense to actually slow down or extend the timelines a bit and focus more on test-driven development, increase the quality, do more user tests, give developers more time. It's, those are just things to keep in mind, because you might think you get more for your money if you compress the time, but oftentimes you don't, because the software quality is less. So that's just something to keep in mind. Software quality, if you think 5 years into the future or just 2 years, will save you tons of money, because developers later don't need to work around certain things, they don't need to fix a lot of stuff, and even new features are oftentimes easier integrated into a well-written software than in a poorly written software. So I think those are the main points that I wanted to leave here. Communication, huge thing. Requirements engineering, huge. Basically also communication, understand what the client needs, and the path towards that goal is actually, or should be, dependent on what the developer knows from his own experience, like what's the best approach to that goal. Because oftentimes it's not what the client thinks it is, but actually a different path that saves them a lot of money and time. Those were the main things, and I would just say thank you for watching. And I think that's the wrong video now, but if you could like this post or hit the bell on my profile to not miss any of these live streams, or comment on this post, everything helps. I know just one call to action is enough, but everything helps. And if you have any questions, leave them below. Happy to support. And if you want me to talk about a different topic next week, let me know. I'm doing these every week, a different topic, everything around tech, Web3, blockchain. Last week was NFTs, all just hot air, these kind of things. Just let me know. Happy to help. Thanks for watching.